Hello and welcome to the Whoniverse and to a brand new video. Now, Doctor Who returned to our screens on this day 20 years ago, with a new Doctor, new companion and some old enemies. It was the trip of a lifetime, and the Autons, also known as Nestene duplicates, were the first threat the Ninth Doctor and Rose would face together, and would kickstart a new era of Doctor Who. The Autons are living plastic foot soldiers with a super intelligent being known as the Nestene Consciousness able to control them and other creations from specially manufactured plastics. Each Auton contains a sliver of this consciousness to enable their animation, with the majority of Autons equipped with wrist blasters that can fire a range of projectiles, each causing pain, suffering and death for their targets. The Nestene has inhabited a range of forms, showcasing how advanced the Autons can be. And to truly look into the history of the Autons, we need to see that they are not just shop window dummies, and instead observe that they come in four main forms. Now, the first form of controlled plastic are primitive, and are only able to complete simple tasks controlled by sonic or radio waves. These include wheelie bins, plastic inflatable chairs, and troll dolls. Then there's the Autons, which have smooth moulded features, more resembling a humanoid but often seen as shop window dummies, hiding in plain sight and waiting to be activated, and being made of plastic, they're pretty indestructible, with severed limbs still functioning and able to kill. Then there's the Nestene facsimiles, which make use of a human prisoner, channeling their brainwaves and memory traces to create a near-perfect duplicate. However, these creations often have giveaways, such as a plastic sheen, difficulties with using slang words, and the ability to turn their hands into mallets and other weapons. Now finally, there's the Nestene originals, perfect duplicates, which are literally autonomous. They have intelligent thought, speech and reasoning, and can be placed into undercover scenarios acting as sleeper agents and believing their cover stories until these plastic agents are activated, and then if they can't fight their programming, they become cold-blooded killers. So, we know the Nestene is a very clever being to control and create all these varieties, and with an understanding of all these forms of Auton, we can dive into the history of the Autons and their uses throughout time and space, and look at how the Nestene began their travels through the stars. Now, the Nestenes were originally an ordinary telepathic species from Polymos, whose natural appearance was octopus-like, before transcending their bodies to become pure energy, merging into a singular hive mind known as the Consciousness, though through another account places their origins as more advanced, with one piece of the first consciousness claiming to be an old one, decayed and hidden in a fold in time, before it was scattered across space, some of its pieces finding one another and becoming Nestenes. Now, in the early days of the universe, the Nestene once fought the Time Lords, who managed to contain them in the Ilia galaxy. Now, Rassilon then destroyed the Nestenes there using a galaxy eater, aware that some would survive, but knowing they would never again be at the power they once were. Now, the Nestenes invaded planets either for colonization, using them for sources of plastic and protein, or to simply destroy them, and by the time they first came to Earth, they had been invading planets for 1,000 million years. The Nestene first arrived on Earth during Greek times, realising there was nothing to take control of, and left promising to come back in a few thousand years when the world was worth conquering and controlling. They left behind a pan-polymeric protoplasm, which another alien, a Jagroff known as Scaroff, had sculpted into a mask for himself to hide his true form. Now, it was much later in the 20th century, be it the 70s or the 80s, that development of plastics by humans created opportunities for invasions of Earth, with the first invasion coordinated by a swarm leader known as Channing. Now, Channing took over Auto Plastics and arranged for standard Autons to be mass-produced and placed in shops across Britain. Channing also obtained a contract from Madame Tussauds to make plastic waxworks of key government and military leaders. The attack was coordinated first thing in the morning, and the Autons broke out of shops to attack key strategic positions, whilst the facsimiles helped soften resistance. The Nestene had even made a body for itself, resembling the form it once held, the tentacled beast, hiding. Now, unfortunately for the Auton and the Nestenes, the third Doctor and unit had found their base and rigged a device to destroy the Nestene, and with the consciousness dispersed once more, the Autons froze and the invasion failed. However, the Nestene had come to Earth in meteors, and some months later, renegade Time Lord the Master had found one of them. The Nestene made an alliance with the Master. Although the Nestene used standard Autons for this operation, the assault relied on deadly plastic daffodils. The third Doctor convinced the Master to stop his alliance with the Nestene, as the Nestene would not distinguish between the Master and anyone else in their takeover, which utilised a great variety of plastic items. So, the two worked together to fling the Nestenes back into space by changing the polarity, whilst the transfer shift of the radio telescope that summoned the Nestene invasion force was still open. This caused the Autons to stop functioning. Now, moving forward to October of 1973, the Nestene hid in the North Sea and attempted another invasion with the assistance of a Mr. Baker. However, a team of MI5 agents with links to Torchwood 1 soon got involved, destroying the Nestene. However, Mr. Baker wanted control of the Autons himself, integrating them into society as British citizens, but was prevented by Agent Roberta Craven, who is actually an Auton facsimile, killing Mr. Baker and recruiting the agents that helped into Torchwood. Now, it was at some point during the 1980s that a unit field exercise in Snowdonia was compromised by the Nestene and Autons, who even attempted to make an Auton Doctor, with the Fifth Doctor forming a hasty alliance with the Master to prevent his doppelganger and a full-scale invasion by forcing the first consciousness back into its fold of time. Later, in 1985, the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn Smith fought the Autons alongside Tiffany Jenkins. And with conventional invasions not working thanks to that pesky Time Lord, the Nestene attempted to invade on two fronts. So, by 1989, the Nestene Consciousness tried to take over Earth using the computer company Seninet. The Sixth Doctor, Mel, and the Brigadier prevented the Consciousness from taking over the Earth. However, the Nestene successfully established a front operation called Galaxy Plastics Incorporated, and was still operational and undiscovered in August 1990. An Auton named Mr. Dolman controlled the company when an industrial spy, Max Fisher, disrupted operations. Dolman attacked and later killed him, and an Auton copy of Max was later created and placed plastic flowers on the shallow grave of the dead spy. Now, what happened to this Auton's company is unknown, as much later the 12th Doctor found the company making action figures. Now, back to the 90s, and an Auton replica known as Alicia Hammerson set up the Hammerson Plastic plc company, and on New Year's Eve 1999, she planned to replace several key figures in the plastic industry with Auton replicas, so the Earth could be dominated and absorbed. The 7th Doctor and Mel gatecrashed the party and broke the Nestene link, which deactivated her. Later, a new state-of-the-art recycling plant opened in north-east London, and pensioner Roger Turner is all for doing his bit, and in return for donations of unwanted plastic, he and his friends got to see ANX Recycling's exhibition of life-size human mannequins. But we know them as Autons. The 7th Doctor and Ace did some investigating of their own, and soon worked alongside Roger to battle the Nestene and the Autons before they could attack once again. Now, entering the 21st century, and fast-forwarding to 2008, where it was discovered by the 8th Doctor that the Nestene had created Nestene Originals and placed them on Earth in Forrington, Uzbekistan, with the aim of destroying humanity. But the 8th Doctor broke the connection to the Nestene so these once weaponized Autons could live their lives in peace, returning to their cover stories, sleeper agents to never awaken. Now, at this point in universal history, a war erupted, not only in space, but in time, the last great Time War. And there wasn't much that was great about it, but the Time Lords and the Daleks engaged in all-out conflict using time as a weapon, resurrecting just as fast as they would kill, plucking people and planets from time, both species becoming the worst in all creation, unspeakable crimes in a bitter, never-ending and ever-changing conflict. The Nestene was approached by Rassilon during the last Great Time War, who bargained to have an Auton copy of the War Doctor constructed to inspire his troops into agreeing to a suicide mission. However, the War Doctor intercepted the deal and won over the Nestene into allowing him to control the Auton, and a second one made in his likeness by agreeing to fighting for the Nestene in the future. However, after many years of war, the Nestene abandoned its conquesting ways and made a new home for itself on Nestenia, where it ruled the plastic conjunction and developed rapport with the embodiment of Grease, which observers described as a romance. It left the Daleks and the Time Lords to squabble amongst the constellations and instead found love. Had the Nestene found peace? The Autons no more? Unfortunately not, because it's a conflict Nestenia would fall victim to, with the fallout of the last Great Time War, which briefly penetrated the normal universe, causing the Nestene to be de-aged by a wave of the early, the food stocks destroyed by the cloud of late, and the embodiment driven insane by the blizzard of TikTok. The sky filled with Gallifreys, Scaros and Earths plucked from time, raining down, thrown like bullets piercing through the sky, and tearing Nestenia to be nothing. Destroyed. The Nestene, in anguish, used warp-shunt technology to escape to Earth, 2005, infiltrating London once more. The Nestene had lost their food planets, so their intention was to overthrow and destroy the human race, as Earth was ideal for their consumption needs, being filled with smoke, oil and various pollutants. And then it got better. As the Ninth Doctor arrived, the Time Lords, soaked in grief from the Time War, began investigating their plan, just as Rose Tyler investigated him. Rose's boyfriend Mickey was captured and used to enable a Nestene facsimile, attacking them both. The Time Lord was soon captured, with the Nestene wishing to absorb the Ninth Doctor, so they could gain knowledge on how to pilot the TARDIS and invade other planets. Now, having captured the Doctor, the Nestene initiated an army of Autons to kill and conquer. Rose Tyler eventually defeated the Nestene Consciousness by knocking a vial of antiplastic solution that one of the Autons had confiscated from the Doctor into the vat of molten plastic, which housed the main bulk of the consciousness, causing it to explode and the Autons to cease their attack, though a piece of the Nestene survived, with ambitions of revenge on the Doctor, by forming an alliance. But that was a plan for another time. For now, the Nestene was weak, and found refuge in the form of one Auton, who posed as a Pierrot clown on the bank of the River Thames. The damaged Auton housing the nugget of consciousness made its way through the destruction of London into Westminster, where it found a dead body, a human, a politician, and as the Nestene merged with the human, a true Nestene original was created, as this new form was a man with the potential for true evil, and 15 years later, in 2020, this man was in charge of the whole country. Boris Johnson. Now, fortunately, the Nestene was eventually stopped by Rani Chandra of Sarah Jane's Attic Gang, who discovered the politician to be a Nestene original and melted him live on Blue Peter. The Nestene's dream for an alliance back in 2005 was also realised through the Total Collapse event incident. The Nestene and an alliance of the Doctor's enemies came to Stonehenge in 102 AD and imprisoned the 11th Doctor in the perfect prison, the Pandorica, in order to save the universe from the cracks in time. As well as appearing in the obvious spaceships, they also created a legion of Autons disguised as Roman soldiers. These Nestene originals, believing themselves to be genuine Roman soldiers, tricked the Doctor, who realised too late what they were, and imprisoned him in the Pandorica. And when the plan failed, the Autons and the Nestene were turned to dust and erased from the universe, along with the rest of creation, except for an Auton copy of Rory Williams, who rebelled against his nature and tried to help the Doctor, even if after killing his wife-to-be Amy Pond. The Auton Rory made a promise and guarded the Pandorica housing the body of Amy Pond, waiting 2,000 years for her living DNA to bring her back to life through a restoration field. In this time, Rory became an unwilling Roman assassin, but pledged to not kill anyone, which is as difficult as it sounds, and later assisted Lancelot in his quests in medieval times. He guarded the box for all those years, and was there when the Doctor rebooted the universe, thus restoring the Nestene and the Autons into history. And with the universe reset, the Nestene went back to the drawing board with the next invasion. The Nestene attempted to invade London in the year 1969, with more Autons only to be confronted by the 10th and the 13th Doctors, who attracted a weeping angel to the consciousness's lair, the angel banishing the consciousness to Earth's past, hopefully to an era before plastic. Now, at some point in the late 20th century, a sliver of the Nestene from the 1980s came across a girl named Elizabeth Devonshire. It spoke to her and set plans in motion for years to come, as by 2013, Autons were placed in Hyperville by Miss Devonshire and the Nestene in an attempt to take over the Earth. Now, among the normal Autons, there were several varieties, such as Autons which could stretch their heads about a metre, an incredibly strong Auton known as B4, which could strangle victims, and Auton replicas. Now, all the Autons were destroyed by the Doctor and reporter Kate Maguire. And it was in this same year, with the absence of the Doctor, the Autons almost conquered Earth with the help of businessman Simon Devlin. However, with a full global force of unit, the Autons failed. And it was around the same time as this that Rhys Williams was travelling aboard a container ship in the oceans choked by the discarded plastics of generations before. Unfortunately, the majority of the ship's crew were Auton facsimiles and Nestene duplicates, and Rhys destroyed the ship and escaped with environmentalist Caitlin. However, the Auton captain of the ship, Anika Banakazik, said they weren't evil. So what was the Nestene's true plan here? A few years later, a group of around 20 Daffodil Men Autons, distinguished by their carnival masks, once attacked the street in which Cliff and Joe Jones lived. Now, Cliff tried to contact UNIT but failed, and Joe defeated the Autons by jacking their signals with electro hip-hop music. Now, as time moved forward and the years sped by, we enter the 51st century. Now, whereas part of a deal with the Krilitane Empire, the Nestene supplied an Auton duplicate of Dorium Maldivor to infiltrate the Maldivarium. On a mini forum known as the greatest shop in the galaxy, they celebrated 200 years at the heart of the retail sector, but when Riversong attended the celebratory gala, she found and defeated the Nestene and its Autons, who wanted to use her vortex manipulator to travel through time and out of an ion cloud that shrouded the business. In 7214, Autons were used by the Master to set a trap for the Sixth Doctor in Antarctopolis. The Doctor was able to destroy them by melting the plastic inside them. However, the Master wasn't done with the Autons. Oh no, he teamed up with Adam Mitchell, a disgraced former companion of the Ninth Doctor, with the Master an info-spiked human teaming up to capture and kill all the Doctor's companions from his first 11 incarnations, with all the incarnations led by the 11th battling the pair as they unleashed an army of Autons who attacked, but left the Time Lords and their companions alive, and after Adam Mitchell sabotaged the controls, with a turn to good, the Autons shut down, the Master killing Adam. But what of the Nestene? Well, the Nestene used Autons once again when they attempted to take over the New Earth Republic in the 101st century. They used both standard and facsimile versions, but were stopped by the Sixth Doctor, who trapped it in the body of an advanced Auton. Now, many years later, the Siege of Trenzalore began, with the 11th Doctor and the forces of the universe in a stalemate, as the Doctor held the power to bring the Time Lords back out of the fires of the Time War. Now, the Nestene Consciousness sent a hit squad of Autons to Trenzalore without weapons in their arms to sneak past the Papal Mainframe's technology barrier. It initially planned to parachute the Autons directly into the 11th Doctor's residence of Christmas to grab the Doctor and take him to his death, but upon the crosswinds blowing the Autons miles off course, the Nestene improvised a plan to lead the Doctor into a trap in Devil's Elbows Canyon in the Outland. The plan ultimately failed when the Autons were sunk beneath the surface of Lake Lagda, while they were aboard the lifeboat after the Doctor set off boronite explosives on board the lifeboat. The Doctor speculated that the Nestene was still in Trenzalore's orbit, having used the Autons to hijack one of those ships, and believed that the Autons were likely the only thing the humans on Trenzalore were likely to see of the consciousness. And perhaps that was the last the universe saw of the consciousness and the Autons for some time. Will they resurface in the past, present or future? It's hard to know, but one thing is for sure, the Autons and the Nestene may not be the most cunning or deadly force in the universe, but they are nothing if not resilient. That is the history of the Autons and their mind, the Nestene, living plastic with intelligence and willpower to conquer. They are truly iconic Doctor Who monsters that not only made their first TV appearance at the same time as the third Doctor entering the show, but also when it was first broadcast in colour. Now, moving into the 2005 revival, the Autons once again made history, being the first monsters for a whole new generation of Doctor Who fans. They were my first Doctor Who monsters on the 26th of March 2005. It was that Saturday night that my love of Doctor Who was born, and here we are today, chatting about plastic dummies and their attempts at invasion and battles with that hero in the blue box we all know and love. Thank you very much for watching this video, and be sure to like it and comment below if you enjoyed this deep dive into Doctor Who lore, and subscribe to see so much more History of Who and plenty of other videos, and of course to celebrate 20 years of Doctor Who's revival. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.